Welcome back to the Madeleine Knit Along. I'm Janica York Carter and I'm here to show you section 2. Here we have section 1, or a small portion of it, that we finished off with a couple of rows of garter ridges. We'll have garter ridges separating each section just to make it a little bit cleaner and simpler to move from one to the other. Section 2 begins with 4 rows of stockinette stitch, which, as you can see here, is knitting along the right side rows and then purling on the wrong side rows to get a nice smooth flat fabric. We still of course do our shaping on either side to get this bias shape by doing our knit 1 and then increase at the front with a knit in the front and back of this stitch, working across the last 3 stitches where we knit 2 together and end with a knit 1. But this is where we want to introduce a little bit of laciness. So let's do exactly what we said, and let's knit 1 and then knit in the front and the back. Okay, this is row 5, which is your lace row of this pattern. You start with knitting 2 stitches, and then we're going to introduce our lace by creating an eyelet. To do that, we simply yarn over. That will create a small hole. But that also adds a stitch to our needle, and we'll need to compensate for that by knitting the next 2 stitches together. That will keep our stitch count even across the way. We'll put a little space between our eyelets by knitting 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. Next eyelet we will yarn over and knit 2 together, and then we will knit 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. We'll continue this way all the way across to have an entire row of eyelets. When we get to the end, however, we will not finish the full repeat, and I will show you that. 1, 2, 3. You'll yarn over and you'll knit 2 together. That leaves you with only 3 stitches. So we want to treat these as we always treat the last 3 stitches. Rather than just knitting 3 across, we will knit these 2 together. Whoops, let's try that again. Knit these 2 together and then knit the last stitch. We're essentially purling across just to maintain the edge that we've had going. We purl the first stitch and knit the second stitch, but then we can simply purl all the way across, and then we will have a line of eyelet lace. I'll finish this row up so that you can see it from the right side and see how the yarn overs are creating some fairly delicate little holes in your piece. These are intentional holes. I remember when I first learned to knit, I had a lot of unintentional lace, lots of dropped stitches, yarn overs that were never intended. But here we're controlling them, keeping them nice and evenly spaced to give us the look that we want. We'll spread this out a little bit, and you'll start to see how we're getting some nice little holes. Okay, we're going to repeat rows 5 and 6 that we just did, and this is where the bias shaping actually works with us. As we knit 1 and knit in the front and the back, we begin again with knit 2. But because we've added stitches to this side, rather than placing the eyelet directly on top of the previous one, it brings it over and creates a diagonal of eyelets. We'll yarn over, we'll knit 2 together, and knit 3. So we only have 2 rows to remember, and the back row is purl, the wrong side row is purl. So yarn over, knit 2 together, and knit 3. over, knit 2 together, and knit 3. 1, 2, 3, yarn over. You'll notice that when you do this, you'll always be knitting 2 together. You'll be knitting that stitch over that previous eyelet. So if you get along and you realize, oh wait, I don't have an eyelet stitch, you might want to double check your count to make sure, oh look, I only did 2 knit stitches rather than the full 3. Now I'm correct with where I need to be. And once again, we're at the end. So instead of knitting 3, we knit 2 together, and then we knit the last one. Now, when we spread it apart, you'll start to see that we're getting diagonal eyelets. I will continue on making several more of these rows so that you can get the full effect. Now we have 3 repeats done, and you can see that we have diagonal eyelets coming along. This is one of those things that you can make as short or as long as you like. I've got 6 repeats written in the pattern, but it's one of those things that it's so simple. I would be very tempted to create a project where this was the entire pattern stitch. I hope you've enjoyed working with section 2, and I look forward to showing you section 3 next time.